Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. And I just realized that I did not have my speakers muted. Well done, me. So you're probably getting it. You're probably getting the audio twice there. You're probably getting bleed back into the mic as well as direct audio. Joy. I'm sure that made your hearts leap for joy. Sorry about that. Anyway, I hope everybody's okay. I hope you've all had a great week. I've had a very busy week. In fact, I've had a very busy, probably 4 or 5 weeks. Some of you will know why. But yes, so it's been a busy time. So who do we have here? We have 16 people watching already, which is a great start at this time. So first one in the door was Bobby Booth, saying hello. Hello to you, my friend. And James Gio and Greg Thomas. Tony Stringner is here. Dwight and Dwayne. I love you guys with the DWs in your names. That's awesome. And Dre is here as well. Dre Bach, good to see you. And who else do we have? Deer Creek Audio, my good friend Chris, is here. He says, I hear a spot for an E major first inversion in this tune. Yeah, well, you know what? I may well have actually played a couple in this song. It's essentially a blues in A, and I'm not really a solo guitar player. I'm more of a rhythm guitar player, and I play weird chords. So, you know, playing a little solo like that was quite the challenge, especially in A. I'm not familiar with playing in A at all, but it was what I was asked to do because this was a piece of music that I wrote for a music bed. And I needed to give it a title, so I just called it On the Up. So there you go, that's what it's called, On the Up. And there's not really a whole lot to it. But the idea was it was just a music bed, and they wanted like some kind of lead guitar thing, but they wanted the lead guitar thing to kind of be not up front, so that's kind of what I went for. So I just I picked out a few notes here and there. And who else do we have here? Snidely Whiplash is here. Now I think you're new to my show, but I have been talking to you throughout the course of today already. We've been chatting away in comments on one of my Studio One 4.5 videos. It's been very nice talking to you, so thank you for that. Let's see, Dark Apple Music is here, and he says hi. And who else do we have? Just Bob is here. You guys are talking about the Atom, which is it's a great device. It's a very, very cool device. I want one. But I have nowhere to put one right now and not enough USB ports to plug it into. But it's a great device, and you can get all sorts of nice skins for it now, which is very cool, except there's one small, tiny little drawback, and that is they're only available from the web store, which means they're only available in the US. They're not available in the rest of the world. So if you want to skin your nice Atom and you live outside the United States, you cannot do it unless you make them yourself, unfortunately. And yes, there is a known issue with the Atom and Studio One 4.5, and there is also a known issue with the plugin scanners. So they know about those, and they are feverishly working themselves to the bone to get those squared away, and rest assured they will be. Deer Creek says, I got a USB hub with on-off switches, which you'll want since the Atom has no switch and the lights are bright. I don't mind bright lights. I really don't, especially in a room like this. I mean, I'm lit up like a Christmas tree with my very cheap video lights. But yeah, I don't mind bright lights from something like the Atom. It's fine. I've got the Studio Live Series 3. And the scribble strips are relatively bright. You can turn the contrast down, the brightness and the contrast down, so they're not quite so bright, but I really don't mind. No problem for me. The yeah, those of you that like to have your computers offline rather than online, I have in several threads in the Facebook groups been posting a workaround, which you can read and go and apply if that is you and you want to stay offline and that's how you want to work. You can do that. Alternatively, you can just roll back to 4.1 for now, or you can do a side-by-side install so that you have 4.1 in one folder and 4.5 in the other, and you can just carry on working that way until there's a maintenance update for 4.5, which I'm sure will be very, very, very forthcoming in the very foreseeable future. That's definitely something you can do, and I would recommend it, actually, to be honest. You know what? Even if you have the safest and most stable update to any software, I always recommend do a if you can do it, if the software allows you to do it, do a side-by-side install. And that way, you know you have always got a stable public release in your back pocket if you need it, and it's not going to stop you from working. It's not going to stop you from making music, and that's the whole point, really, to be honest. So, yeah. So that's that. Let's see. Chris says, did you catch Vatch's free Pro Tools video about being offline? Yes, I did see that. Yeah, Pro Tools First. If any of you know about Pro Tools First, I thought it was a good idea. Just, poorly executed, shall we say. Poorly executed. It's like they've given something away, and they don't. Apparently, I'm not going to state categorically because I could get myself into hot water for saying it, but you know, it's done with not very much care, I think. James asks, is there any way I can reinstall 4.1? Yes, you can. You just go back to your My Personas account and the software tab, and where your Studio One install is in your account. There's a link there to previous versions, and I would just say re-download the previous version and install it to a separate folder, which you call Studio One 4.1. And then you can use that version whilst you're waiting for issues with 4.5 to be sorted. If, you know, if the issues in 4.5 particularly stop you kind of from carrying on. But, hey, we're creative sorts, we're musicians, we really should be the kind of people for which no obstacle should stop us from making music. We should be able to make music regardless. So, you know, we should be the kind of people that are the first to find a workaround. So that would be my opinion. I've used all sorts of software over the years. I've been working professionally in music production since, sometime last century, kind of like the late 80s, early 90s. And, you know, software back then wasn't what it is now, and you just have to work around it and make it work somehow. Let's see. Just Bob says, still waiting on bug fixes. No hurry, I'm super busy. Lots of things dragging me away from music at the moment. Yeah, sometimes life can do that to you. Let's see. Yes, if you are connected to the internet all the time, if your working studio machine is connected to the internet all the time like mine is, you will have no issue with the plugin scanner. It will just go bing and be done. But if you like to keep your computer offline, yeah, that's going to be a bit of a problem at the moment. Snidey Whiplash says, I sent this question to you right before you started your show. Do you know how to center the timeline cursor in Studio One? The Studio One cursor scrolls across, it moves across the screen. It's not static. I know there are some DAWs for which the cursor is static and everything else moves behind it. But in Studio One, it's the other way around. The cursor scrolls across the screen, so it doesn't stay still, so to speak. However, there are various zoom options that you can use in Studio One, which I can show you. Let's see. Hang on just a minute. I can show you some zoom options. Now, at the moment, I've got this set to this kind of loop here. I can zoom it to loop. So if you're finding that you've got a scrolling thing and you don't like the fact that it scrolls right across the screen, I like the fact that it scrolls. I like the fact that it scrolls and everything else stays static behind it. I like that. I think that's more kind of accurate to me. I know some people prefer the cursor to stay. The cursor, they think, hey, the cursor is the playhead. The playhead is stationary and the tape passes through it. Therefore, all the audio and everything on my screen here should pass through the playhead. I can see that point of view, and I think that point of view is just as valid. It's just that this is the way that Studio One works. It doesn't have the static cursor. That's just by design. That's, you know, the way they decided that they were going to do it. And I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for them to change something that fundamental to the software and its original design intent. Because that's quite a major thing. You think, hey, all it must just be a couple of lines of code just to make the playhead static and everything else scroll behind it. Actually, it would require considerable rewriting of how play, record, rewind, fast forward all work, how the transport all works, and how the GUI itself actually works. It would be quite some rewrite just to get the cursor to stay still and everything else to move behind it. So I don't think that's something that you're ever going to see. So if you're a Studio One user and you like the workflow of Studio One, then the moving cursor is something you're just going to have to get used to. But if you're finding that it's going off screen, for example, if I was to turn this the loop off and play it from bar 4, and you're finding that it's just going off screen, if I turn that off, even better. And you're finding that the cursor just keeps going, let's say, and then it just disappears off screen. And you're just like, where's the cursor gone? Where's the cursor gone? Well, if you press this button up here, this is the auto scroll, and you can keep tabs on it. You can either click it with the mouse or you can press F on your keyboard. See, when you hover over it, it very helpfully in brackets tells you what the shortcut is. So if I was to press F, it's now caught up with me and I can turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. Like that. It's just dead easy. So one of the things you'll find with Studio One is if you're in play mode, so you're playing, but you're also kind of shifting, moving things about as well as it's playing, you'll find that the auto scroll automatically turns itself off because it's like, you're editing. You might need the play head. You might need the cursor to do whatever it is you need to do. So I will not scroll anymore. So do your piece of moving about whatever it is with the arranger track or whatever, and immediately hit F on your keyboard, and it will automatically pick up and get scrolling automatically again. So I hope that helps answer that. That might not be a question. That might not be what you're talking about, but I hope that helps. Yeah, he says, in Pro Tools you can center it by using left and right arrow keys. That is great for locating where you're working. Yeah, the auto scroll button, if it's kind of gone out of auto scroll, and you don't know where the cursor's gone, then you can just hit F, hit the auto scroll thing, and it it'll go to exactly where you are. And I suppose that may be similar. And just Bob with the $10 donation. Lang may yer lumrik, he says. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate that very much. So, Bobby Booth says, the only thing I had to do was unplug and replug my PS49 keyboard and Atom. Oh, well, that's good. So you don't have those issues. Now, you see, I think some of these issues, yeah, they're fairly big ones in terms of disruption, but I think they're only affecting a small number of people. And I think it might be certain people on certain operating systems and a particular version of Universal Control, and maybe even a particular, if you're on Windows, a particular build, because I know there's been a new build come out for Windows 10. So if you're on the very latest Windows 10, there might be an issue there between Universal Control, Windows 10, and of course Studio One as well. So that's, 3 for the price of 1 variables that you've got there. So it's possible that throws another thing into the mix there. This is the thing, there are so many variables. There's a new OS build, there's a Universal Control build, there's there's all sorts of other things that could be going on in the background as well. Like you've just installed some new plugins, and your new plugins have not been tested on the new build of Windows 10. So, software development is a tough business. Chris says, I edit my MIDI a lot. It'd be nice if autoscroll could stay on, but F is like Control S. It's muscle memory. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I can certainly see your point when you're editing MIDI and you want the cursor to stay still whilst you're doing that, particularly if you're zoomed in. And if you're really zoomed in tight on something, the cursor just goes, and you're just like, whoa, where's it gone? Because it's moving really, really quickly, because actually when you're really zoomed in, you're talking about a small fraction of time. And time, unfortunately, doesn't slow down. However zoomed in you are on time, time continues at its regular rate. So, not a lot you can do about that. So, yes, being aware of how zoomed in you are and where your cursor is a helpful thing, and F on your keyboard is a good thing too. Dwayne Dwayne552 says, I find the classic fader port nice to fast forward and reverse the cursor. Yes, absolutely. Fader port is a lifesaver. Excuse me. For that kind of thing. And I'm sure the fader port 2018 does likewise. I have one of those on the way to replace my Faderport Classic, because my Faderport Classic, the play button is starting to wear out. Sometimes I have to press it several times before it actually engages, and that's nothing to do with the firmware of the device. It's just the button is getting a little bit tired, because the Faderport Classic itself is a little bit tired. I got one not that long after it launched as a product. I was just like, oh, this looks like a great little control device. I'll get one of those. And so I did. And it has served me extremely well for 21 hours a day for the last, 10 years or so. But yeah, the button is getting a little bit tired now. Let's see what else is going on here. Chris says, since PreSonus make hardware, it might be interesting for them to offer a computer. What do you think? Well, they actually partner with a company. And the name of the company actually escapes my memory. And I wish it didn't, but it does. But if you go to the PreSonus shop, there are actually computers that are sold in the PreSonus shop that are made by this company that partner with PreSonus. And they make PreSonus certified Pro Audio PCs. So they do actually do it. They just don't make them. PreSonus don't make them, but they certify them, and they are they work in partnership. You guys are talking about soaking your atom in vinegar? That's gonna fix the issues. Yes. Just Bob asked the question of the evening, I have to say, because he's given me a little bit of a chivio, and I appreciate that because we're halfway through the show and I've just been waffling inanely. He says, even though you put out great videos on the upgrade, could you do examples of some of your favorite upgrades? I can certainly do that, and that's kind of what I kind of. If you're on my email list, you'll have seen. I did send out an email, and I did say I was going to look at some features of 4.5. So we're going to do that. We are absolutely going to do that. So let's get to that. Now, one of the questions I got asked recently was about the new groups, the new grouping stuff, which is very, very cool. So let's go to the mixer. And if you don't know how the grouping works, at the bottom here, you see it says none. Well, you can create a new group. I've only done this a few times, so I have to try and remember how to do it. So I'm going to select that track, and I'm going to select that one. And I think it's Control G or Command G on a Mac. Yes, it is. And group 1, which I'm going to call band. It seems oxymoronic to call it band group, but so I will just leave it at band and we'll go okay. Oh, group that name already exists. Oh, does it? In that case, I'll cancel that. Let me check. Ah, it does already. I just haven't assigned it. How stupid of me. Ah, yes, of course. So I've already created that. Let me just select all these tracks again and figure out why they won't assign. Why will they not assign? Huh, okay. Well, that's fine. I'm going to dissolve the group. And we'll just create a group as if we're creating it from afresh again, like we just did. Control G. And we'll go band. And we've created it. There we go. There we go. So we have the group and we've assigned it to these channels here. And the cool thing about the groups is when you, well, first of all, you can recolor this. So let's go for blue. Yeah, that looks horrible. Let's go for that. There we go, that's better. So you've got all of these options now. So these options here are options by which you can affect the group. So it defaults to have everything checked apart from panning for obvious reasons, because if you've already got channels panned left and right in various amounts, you may not want all of the channels in the group to be affected by any panning that you do. But you can have editing, volume, mutes and solos, record, monitor, inserts and sends. So this is all very cool. So what you can do is, let's say I want to have a reverb across everything. Well, that's dead easy to do. I can go to my effects and I can go down here to Room Reverb, and I can just dump it on there, and as you can see, all the sends are created for each of the channels in the group, and they're all set up just like that. So that's very, very cool and very easy to do. Let's see, what else can we do? I think all the faders in the group are joined together, which they are. And my fader port and my Series 3 mixer faders are going crazy every time I do that, which is great because I can automate a group if I want to. If I really wanted to, I could do that. So the other thing you can do with our group by right-clicking, I keep remembering I need to remember it's right-click. So we've got inserts, we've got sends, mute and solo, so we can solo the whole group, we can mute the whole group. We can arm everything to record, so I could just arm the whole lot to record like that. And now you hear me with a reverb. That's fun. There we go. And we got that turned off again. Yeah, so there's plenty of different ways in which the group can be affected here. Editing basically means, applying effects. So you can have like an EQ across the whole group, and all that fun stuff. So volume is an obvious one. Panning, not maybe quite so an obvious one, but you can have that checked if you want. Let's say you have, 5 trumpets, and you want your 5 trumpets to come out of your left channel. Well, you just group them and then you just pan one of them, and the other one, all of the others will go in the same direction. There we go. So that's groups. I love how the groups work. I think it's brilliant. I think this is a great little feature. And the cool thing is that you can have the group thing show up either here or up here. Let me see if I can find where it shows it. Oh, it's not in there. It's in this guy over here. So there's my group there. And again, you have all the same options here. And you can rename the group, you can dissolve it. Oh, the other thing is, back in the mixer, although all of these are linked via panning, by volume control, because that's one of the options that we've got there. Now, you may think that, let's say I want to just turn down this presence track now because it's now at +5. That's going to be way too loud. So let's say we want to turn this down. Well, logically, you might be thinking, right-click here and disable volume, and then go and make that adjustment. Well, doesn't that seem like the long way around? Yes, it does, because it is. If you hold down Alt and make that change, only that fader moves. And it's still connected to the group. When you hold down Alt, it temporarily suspends the group so you can make that change. And then when you release Alt, it goes back together again. That's very cool. Very handy little feature. So I love the groups. But that's not all that I love. I mean, I could go on. I've made a 12-part video series. And really, I could have made a 24 or 48-part video series. But that would be boring to everybody. So my next favorite is really the one that I wanted to show everybody. Let's go and grab an instrument, and let's go and grab impact, and we'll find a drum set of some kind. Let's see. Let's use this one. And then let's just double click in here, and let's double click that. So now we've got our drums. My good friend Lucas made a really excellent video on this, and I was just like, oh yes, I must go and check this out. So musical editing, let me see. I need to try and make sure. Music creation. Yes, music creation. These independent macro toolbars are awesome. Side thing here, just as a wee aside. The macro toolbars are amazing. And if you're not seeing this, if you're not seeing these new macros, all you need to do is just hit the cogwheel here and go down and click Reset Toolbar. And your macro toolbar from 4.1 will disappear, and the new macro toolbars for 4.5 will appear, and you'll have all of these additional fantastic macros that have been created by the guys in Hamburg. I have one or two sneaky suspicions who is behind these. Sorry, swig of tea break for a second there. Now these are really, really cool. I love these. So why don't we just have some random fun for a moment, and I'm just going to quite randomly, well, almost randomly, there, that'll do. Okay, so I've selected a few notes here. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to select all, and I am going to do, let's see, I'm going to go up to action. I'm going to repeat notes to part end. And now what we get is this. Oh, hang on, I need to mute everything. I need to solo this guy. That's what I need to do. So let's go back into here. Okay, why are we not hearing anything else? Ah, I know why. Let's try that. There we go. Okay, so none of that makes any sense and sounds like the drums are just falling down a cliff. Well, one of the things we can do, which is quite cool, is we can randomize the notes, and we'll go use original pitches only, and let's see what that's like. Now the cool thing is it's randomized some of the velocities as well, which is great fun. But let's say we like that, but we want to make it busier. So let's go fill with notes, and we'll say 16ths. Let's see, fill whole part, and we'll just do that. Now let's see what happens now. Now, I'm not recommending that anyone, I mean, that's just kind of random. It's not going to work for this particular drum kit, but for some it might. So let's say, okay, that's just maybe a little bit too much. I can go to this macro here that says thin out, and it will delete 25% of the notes. Okay, let's say that's still too much. Let's do another 25. So there you go. That's these new macros are the things that I really like, because you can be really, really creative. Now it works quite nicely for drums. Like if you want to create something really random on drums, it works quite nicely. But let's mute that for now, and let's go into this one here. And we've got this guitar part. Let's apply the same kind of thing here. Let's randomize the velocity. Okay, and let's thin it out. Okay, why don't we randomize the pitch as well whilst we're at it? So there's a whole bunch of ways in which you can be pretty creative, or at least Studio One can be a little bit improvisational. And then if you find something that comes up, randomly comes up, and you go, that's really, really great, select that, duplicate that. Delete everything else and go, that one bar is fantastic. Everything else, not so great, but that one bar is great. Delete everything else. Select all of that and duplicate, or do the repeat to end the part, whatever you want to do, and kind of make a little ostinato out of that. So this is all very, very cool, and you could combine this with a nice 4 to the floor kick and a pad sound, and maybe some randomized drum parts as well to complement it, and it could sound really, really cool. I think, anyway. So those are some of mine. I don't know what you guys think, but I hope you like those. I'm gonna go back to the chat and have a scroll about and see what you guys have been talking about. George Matios is here. He says, "Hi, Johnny. Cheers. Good to see you, George. Sorry, I didn't see you walk in the door." Let's see. Where did I get to? Where did I get to? Yes, I found it. Okay. Mika says, "Hey Mika, good to see you, mate. I'm glad you're here." Says, "Hello to all. Not using 4.5 now. Had issues on both Mac systems. I installed it. Had audio issues with my barrels crackling and some issues also with the Antelope controller mixer suite back to 4.1. Yeah, I think some of these kind of things are all going to be worked out. Make sure you put in a support ticket for those, Mika. So the guys in Hamburg et al. Know about that. Chris says, "Would you consider a group like the combo of a VCA and bus, or what is the advantage of using groups over those?" Busing, I still do, but the thing with groups is they're smart. Now, yes, a VCA allows you to control all of the faders in a group, or allows you to control all the faders that are connected to that VCA, and you can just go up, down, up, down, up, down, but that's all you can do with a VCA. Whereas the groups can do everything that a VCA can do, plus it's kind of extra smart as well, I think, personally. It's kind of like VCA plus, if you like. But busing, I think busing is a little bit different still. I still route all my audio through buses because that's where I kind of do my mixing. My mixing is in the buses primarily. So that's not going to change for me. Because I'm still going to want to affect everything that is sent to that bus or routed to that bus. Dwayne has got to go. I'm sorry to see you go, mate, but he says I'll catch you on the reply. Cool, mate. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Sometimes when I record MIDI, the only available notes shown in the editor are the ones played, but unplayed notes are not available or shown. What's happening there? Well, the last time I'm not really sure what you mean by unplayed notes. If you don't play a note, then there can't be any MIDI data generated. So there's MIDI is basically note on, note off, and some CC expression stuff. But that's all it is. So if you don't play a note, then it won't register and it won't appear in the editor. Fairly straightforwardly. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what you mean. In other words, I can't come later and add new notes in the editor unless I physically play them first, and then that note column shows up. Well, yeah, if you want other notes added to what you've already got in your part, like if I was to go back to that guitar part for a second, if I was to go back to this guitar part, whoa. Okay, and let's say, okay, that's fine. That's all great and everything, so let's just do a control save. And let's go, oh, okay, what if I decide I want to add a note into this? But, oh yes, but everything's randomized. Well, that's fine. That's all well and good. Let's go back to, let's see, what can I add in here that will harmonically fit? Let's say an A, and then maybe and maybe a D above. All right, so maybe we add those in to the equation. Well, we can still do our randomized pitch, I think. Oh, hang on a minute. I need to go back and do repeat notes to and oh, it's because I've selected that one note. Let's Control Z that. Oops. I did not want to do that. I forgot to go back to the point tool. And now I can go back and I can go oh, I need to select all. I need to select all and then do that. I'm doing it wrong every time here, folks. Now this worked for me earlier. This definitely worked for me earlier when I did this. Because those should be repeating now. Yeah. Okay, let's try that. Now my new notes are appearing. There we go. Okay, so let's add in something else. Let's add in a G. And let's do the randomized pitch thing again. All right, so I have added some extra notes in, and then I've just done the pitch randomizer again, and it's repeating those extra notes that I've added in. So it does kind of work. When you do it right, it works, as we just found out, because I wasn't doing it correctly at first. So I hope that helps. Okay, let's see. Buses are for summing audio signals of selected tracks for multiprocessing. Yes, exactly right, Mika. That's exactly right. If I want to add unplayed symbol, that note column doesn't show in the editor. I don't know what you mean by unplayed. That doesn't make any sense to me, unplayed. Because if you don't play a note, then it doesn't register in the editor, so the note block won't be there. If you mean adding a part of an instrument, like adding a cymbal that didn't exist in a drum kit before, and you add a cymbal to that drum kit, that's a different thing altogether. But if you're talking about just adding a note, like I just did just now, that wasn't there before, I added notes in. Yes, Studio One doesn't know what notes you are not going to play, so it can't play your unplayed notes because you haven't played them. I think I'm not sure what you're trying to say, to be honest. Just Bob asks, with MIDI mirroring, can you mirror the MIDI note and delete the original so you only have the mirrored notes? Yes. Does it have to be tied to the original notes? No, you can actually, when you do the mirroring, you can actually completely have it replace. You can have it totally replace the phrase that you have in the first place. So if you want it mirrored, it would just literally reverse. And then if you want to go up, if you want to go forwards and then backwards, the way to do that is to go and duplicate the forwards way, and then select the duplicate of the forwards way and mirror that, and then you'll get the forwards, then the backwards, and then have that as a repeating pattern if you wish. But yes, when you do mirror, it completely mirrors. If you select a bunch of notes and you say mirror, and you choose the parameters by which you want it mirrored, then it replaces whatever the original was by default. But if you want both, then I suggest the way to do that is to duplicate the first phrase, the original phrase, so you have a copy of that, and then you mirror the copy rather than mirroring the original if you want to have both together. Chris says, if I only play 4 drums out of a kit that has 10 drums, only 4 columns show up in the editor. 4 columns. I'm not sure what you mean by the columns. You're probably sitting there getting really frustrated with me. But your entire kit that you have mapped in Impact will be in the drum editor. Unless you have removed elements from that drum kit so that they don't show up. For example, that drum kit that I had a second ago, if I go back to that, let's come out of that. Let's go into the Impact. See, this is the Tom Brecklin drum set. So all of these appear. I would think of these as rows rather than columns, because these are columns here. So I'm not sure what you're meaning. Because I didn't, when I first put in this drum part, I didn't play every note. I only played like the first 4 or 5. I think maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I stopped when I got to the ride part. So I think I played 7 out of all of this drum kit here. I didn't play any of the others. So those were, I suppose, quote unquote, unplayed because I didn't play them. So naturally, there aren't going to be any notes in there unless I actually play them. Or I set the randomizer to randomly generate pitches between these values here, between C1 and C2. So if I do the randomizer between C1 and C2, then it will randomly generate notes between C1 and C2, even whether I play them physically or not. But these rows should appear because these are the ones that are in Impact. If I go to the Impact GUI, you can see all the mapping here from C1 up to D2. So all of these actually appear in the track. They're all here. But if I don't actually play them in a drum part, if it's just a regular 4 to the floor groove, hi-hat, kick and snare, I'm only playing these 3 notes here. I'm only using these 3 notes. Nothing else is being played. So unless I actually play them, they won't appear. But I don't know if that's what you mean at all. I could be completely wrong, because I am not sure you're making yourself 100% clear. But there we go. David SJ is here. He says, sorry, late to the party. Don't worry, mate. You're not too late. RJ Hagler says, hands across the water. Good to see you too. Mika says, look at his macro, recreate it. It makes gain staging so fast and easy. Seriously, it's the bomb. Yes, it is. Okay, Chris is using Tune Track SD3. I can't write new notes in the editor because there is no note column for previously unplayed notes, even though they exist in SD3. See, I don't know. You're repeating yourself by saying unplayed notes. I don't know what you mean by unplayed notes. If by this you mean there are parts of the kit missing in the editor for the GUI, for the track that you've played in Studio One, then it's probably because those particular instruments are not mapped. If they're not mapped, they won't appear in the editor. So I don't know if that's what you mean, because I don't know what you mean by unplayed notes. But I mean, as you saw there, I could write new notes into either the drum editor or the music editor for the guitar part, pretty easily because it's all mapped. If it's not mapped, you can't write it. I think that's what we're talking about, but I'm not sure. And we've got about 3 minutes left of the show, but those are pretty much my favorite things in Studio One 4.5. The macro toolbars, the 3 independent macro toolbars, are amazing. Can I heartily suggest here that you go and you try out the 3 independent macro toolbars. Look at all the pages and find out which page has the set that is going to be most useful to you. For example, for me, in the arranger view here, there are some global ones here. Like you can turn on the plugin manager, for example. I have my history button here. But you have audio editing ones here. These are great. These audio editing ones are fantastic. So when you get a bunch of tracks in to a brand new session, you can normalize your and peaks to -12. Normalize audio and set peaks to -12. It's like a 1-button gain stage. Which is fantastic when you get a whole bunch of tracks and you just want to get going real quick. And, you know, you can always finesse it a little bit afterwards. It's not kind of designed so that it does the mixing job for you, but, you know, it's fairly quick and it normalizes all the peaks to -12 dB. And you can always go into each individual event if you need to finesse it a little bit. Maybe -12 is a little bit too low, or it might not be. It kind of depends on your source audio, but at least it gives you kind of a quick and easy gain stage. I mean, in the past, if I wanted to do a quick and easy gain stage, I would just select all, and then I would go to the inspector, and I would reduce the let's see. I would just reduce the gain. I would just type in -12. I would have everything selected, and then I'd just type in -12 here. And that would do the same job as that macro up here. And these are great because you can turn up in increments or down in increments by 3 dB. These are great. You can close gaps, you can merge, you can reverse. You can add tracks to add layers to tracks if you need to. Like if you know you're going to be recording a guitar solo, you can add a bunch of layers so that you're just ready to go. You don't have to worry about it. You can add in event effects. You can render the event effects. So if you've got like a delay on a particular one piece of audio, you can just hit that button and it will render it. You can align the transients. That's a great little macro. If everything is out of alignment, you can just hit that macro. What a great set of macros that they've developed here. So I also like these. I like these global ones as well. For zooming, you can have it large, medium, small, zoom to loop, overview. You can toggle between different views. That's all great, just with one button. It's very, very cool. And of course, you can create a whole bunch of new macros if you so desire. So the independent macro toolbars, I think, are a massive addition to Studio One. Massive, massive, massive addition. And will make things just so much easier for getting going quickly and getting through your mix quickly. Chris says, I'll make a video and post it in the support page. That hopefully will explain the mud coming out of my brain. Okay, that's fine. Or even better, Chris, why don't you post it to Dropbox and send a link to me personally? And then I can personally go and have a look at that. If you want to keep it just between me and you, we can do it that way. So yeah, that's an option that we can take if you like. David SJ says, you mentioned once you might put up another song for mixing. Any thoughts on whether that's going to happen? Oh, it is going to happen. I am going to do another Mixing with Jonny Lipsham series. I just haven't decided which song to do yet. I'm still thinking about that. And I'm also in the process of working on a new EP. So I've got new songs that I'm writing as we speak. And so I'm thinking, do I go for something out of my previous records, or do I go for something something that I am just about to release? So I've got this new record that's going to come out in around about September. Another 5-song EP. So maybe one of those songs, kind of around the release time, I might do, or I might do another one from the Belonging to Tomorrow EP. I have to decide. Martin says, regarding gain staging for more than 12 actual tracks, is minus 12 or minus 18 the ballpark area's preference when dealing with lots of tracks? A starting point, more or less. Pick a point. I would say the more tracks you have, maybe the more headroom you need to allow. So maybe minus 12 or minus 18 if you've got like tons of tracks. Like, 50, 60, 70, 80 tracks of audio, then yeah, maybe a lower gain stage point to minus 18 might be a good option for you. But if you've only got like 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, then you could maybe gain stage to minus 6. Just pick a platform that's going to give you plenty of headroom. That's all you need to do, really. That's all gain staging is. It's just kind of, it's just leveling a platform. Chris doesn't use Dropbox. Okay. Mika says, please do a song with better drum stems. I will try. Are you complaining? Are you complaining about my drums? I'm hurt now, Mika. Yeah, my EP Belonging to Tomorrow had its challenges when recording. The performances were great, but the recordings did not sound great. So we liked the performances. My drummer Dave Lightly did a fantastic job. We just didn't like the sound of the recordings. They sounded overcompressed. And that's due to an accident when recording, and nobody really noticed that they were going down like that until it was too late. So what I did was I tried to replace all the drums with by using drum replacement. I used samples of his kit. I basically went to his house and sampled all the parts of his drum set that we had used in the recordings. And I said, your performances were great. We're going to keep the performances, but we're just going to replace the original recordings with samples of your drum set. So we sampled his drum set, and that's what you get. So you end up with a stereo file. So there you go. That's what happened with that record. Hopefully, that's not going to happen again. I really sincerely hope it's not going to happen again. My next EP is likely to have more loops and things going on than before. I've never made a record with loops, so I'm thinking I might quite like to use some loops and be really creative and mess about with them. Martin is laughing, says usually about 14 tracks is my limit. Okay, yeah, minus 12 is fine. Just Bob says, what was the headroom allowance back when the Beatles recorded between 66 and 70? I have no idea, but you could probably Google that and find out. I'd be interested to find that out as well. To be honest, because it was the analog world, you could afford to record an awful lot hotter because you had the noise floor to compete with, which we don't have now. There is practically a zero noise floor. So there you go. Because there's no noise floor, it makes recording a lot easier. or at least it's supposed to. You can still mess it up. So yeah, as Chris says, nudging the needle into the red a tiny smidge, gives on an analog system gives you a little bit of saturation and analog distortion, which is pleasing. Whereas if you do that in the digital domain, it gives you digital clipping, which is not pleasing in the slightest. It takes the top of the peak and chops it at 0 dB. And it squares it all off, and it's not very nice. Martin says, hats off to you, as that is a tough one to pull off properly. Can get really frustrating. Yeah, if you mess up a really good recording, and you have to think creatively about how you're going to fix that so that you still have drum tracks. Yes. I had to be creative. I had no choice. David says, read Jeff Emmerich's book for an eye full of Beatles recording info. Absolutely. Let's see. Martin says, regarding headroom gain staging, the Studio One VU meter defaults to -18. Does that matter or not if I adjust the gain staging to -12? You'll need to adjust the calibration to -12, or you'll have to do the maths. One or the other. If 0 is -18 on the Studio One VU meter, I'm not entirely sure that it is. I think you can change it. I've not used the VU meter in a long time, but I'm pretty sure you can change the calibration. And if you can change the calibration to -12 so that 0 equals -12 dB VU, then change that. Because then you'll know that when that needle is hitting 0, you know that that's -12. Mika says, with half-inch 2-track tape recorders, one can jam the needle fully into the red for compression and slight overdrive. Yes, absolutely. Can't do that in the digital domain. It will sound hideous if you try. Yeah, getting the sample tracks just right can be a real headache. It certainly was. I was pulling out what little hair I have left on my head. Trust me. So yeah, so there we go. So we've covered grouping. We've covered some of my favorite 4.5 additions. I think the input controls are really great as well. I know I didn't really talk about that, but I think they are. I think the new input controls are fantastic. I mean, the audio of my mic that is coming to you right now is coming through the new input channels. And so should be a little bit on the louder side and should be a little bit cleaner as well, hopefully. Because tonight is a little bit of an experiment with that. Martin says, thanks. You can just asking questions. I like to get that part of mixing done before I do anything else. Yeah, gain staging it should be done first. Absolutely. David says, have a very good week. Thank you very much. Yes, I intend to. My wife is off this week, so we are. I don't know what we're going to do. And a lot of all the busyness that I have had for the last 5 weeks is done, although I'm just about to start mixing another record for another one of my clients, who is a regular client. He's been coming back to me maybe 2 or 3 times over the last 4 or 5 years. I've done EPs for him. I've done singles for him. I've done 2 whole albums with him as well. So I'm going to be mixing another EP for him. I've got clients lined up right the way through to the rest to the end of the year now, which is very cool. Mixing, mastering, doing some recording as well, but mostly mixing and mastering. And of course, a lot of bass playing and a lot of piano playing to do as well. Mika's got to go. Roger Weiner. Is that right? Weiner? I don't know. I'm butchering your surname, I'm sure, Roger. I apologize. We all have headphones we are all plugged into the 1602. And we just got the headphone HP4 splitter. We want to play live in the music room and listen through them without any bleed. Well, to get no bleed from your headphones, you got to make sure you got good headphones with really good seals, to be honest, and closed backed. Not like these. These are semi-open. You want closed back ones like the Presonus HD9s are a good option for closed back headphones. The Sennheiser, I forget what they are, 250, I think. There's another really good option for closed back headphones. But I don't have the 1602 and I don't have the HP4, so I can't really speak to how well those work or how you set them up, to be honest, because I don't know. Just Bob says, "Oh, not wives off every week." No, my wife is a community-based midwife. She works like 70, 80 hours a week. It's mental. But my kids will be at school, so we'll have some time together during the days, which is going to be really nice because we don't normally get that. Normally she's working out in the community and I'm working in here. So it'll be a nice change. It'll be a nice change. Deer Creek says, "I think like Johnny Guy, I don't worry about gain staging. With digital, it isn't so much of an issue. If it's too loud, turn it down or up as needed. Basically, no noise floor." Yeah, the whole noise floor thing is just not an issue. I agree. Which is why I don't really talk about gain staging. I talk more about kind of when you bring your tracks first in to start with, if they're all at different levels of volume, like let's say you've got one that's nearly clipping, and then you got one that's at minus 24, and then you got one that's at minus 6, and then you got one that's at minus 18, you want to kind of level all of those off. Pick an arbitrary point and level them all off, because it'll make mixing a heck of a lot easier, and you'll not be having to do the dance with the master bus clip light all the time, because you won't run out of headroom when everything's summed to the mix bus. So yeah, you don't have to worry about noise floor, because that's just not there anymore. The noise floor is like minus 144 or something ridiculous. So it's not even a concern. But I think leveling everything off so that everything peaks at the same level just makes mixing easier, I think. Is that gain staging? I don't know. Which is why I think this macro that normalizes everything and sets the peaks to minus 12 is a great thing. It means it's all done in one, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. David says, "I simplify gain staging in Reaper by just normalizing all the audio tracks and putting a gain plugin on them set at minus 18, easy and fast." Yes, exactly. And that macro that I showed you guys there in the new Studio One macro toolbar does exactly that. You just select all your audio, ping, done. Oh gosh, we are 15 minutes over time here. Let's see. Yeah, Chris says, in the analog days we slammed the tape. If you heard distortion, you backed off. How it's possible? Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what I did back in the day as well, recording to tape machines. You go boing, and then you back it off if it's crunching and it's unpleasant. We want to hear ourselves through the headphones, no amps. Okay, well you need to have sends and Q mixes and that kind of thing set up from your mixer so that you're sending audio from the mixer to the headphone amp. And you need to have everything plugged in to the mixer. If you don't want to be using amps, you need to have line outs from the amps maybe, or you want to have your guitars and what have you plugged in directly to the mixer. That's the other way to do it. And then you need to have Q outs set up on the mixer so that audio from the mixer is being sent to the individual headphones. So that would be the last thing I'm going to talk about tonight, because we're 50 minutes over and the craziness starts in the next couple of days. So I need to get everything ready for the next batch of craziness with mixing and that kind of stuff. So I've got a couple of days to get everything squared away around the house, and then I have to get going. So I am going to call it a night there. I'm just kind of watching the last couple of things come in. Yeah, I'm just as amazed as anybody else, Dark Apple, to be honest. But it would seem that some of these issues are affecting a small number of people. They're not affecting everybody. It's not like the entire Studio One user community is affected by these issues. It's only some people that are affected, and most people aren't. If your computer is connected to the internet, you're not going to have the plug-in scan problem. If you don't have an Atom, you're not going to have the Atom problem. And actually, not everybody that has an Atom has the Atom problem. Some people have it, some people don't. It seems to be relatively arbitrary, depending upon, I guess, your computer and your OS build and all of that business, and your version of universal control that you have on your computer. So there are variables that are creating these issues rather than it being a blanket couple of bugs that are affecting everybody. Right, I am going to call it a night there, folks. Thank you so very much for coming. And I think we peaked at... What did we peak at? 26. Peaked at 26. And right now we have 21 in the room, which is fantastic. Thank you. Who was it who gave the donation? I think that was... I can't remember who that was. I can't even remember who the donation was from. I have to scroll back to find it, I guess. It's Just Bob. Thank you, Just Bob, if you're still here. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all your donations, and I appreciate you all being here. Mike Neighbours just walked in the door. He says, missed it? Yes, I'm afraid you did, my friend. But the replay will be up very shortly, so go check that out. I showed a few things in Studio One with the new updates and that kind of stuff. And we talked about gain staging. So that's the highlights. Go check out the replay if you've only just walked in the door. If you have just walked in the door, hello and goodbye. Thank you for coming. And I will see you all on Wednesday over at the HST live streams channel, where we'll be doing Songwriting Simplified. I don't know what we're going to be talking about yet, but we will have a topic. Jonny and I will have a chat between now and then, and we'll have a subject for discussion. And it will more than likely be hilarious. It usually is. It's a hilarious show. So please tune in then. And then, of course, after that, I'll be putting up more videos this week. So there'll be another video going up on Thursday. Again, topic to be confirmed, but keep your eyes open for that. And then we'll be back here next week for Sunday Night Live. So I will see you all then. I hope everybody has a fantastic week. I'll see you Wednesday over at Jonny's channel. Good night, everybody. I pressed that button too soon. Oh, music. I do this every week. You can tell, can't you? Mumble Chris.